here is the Writer's Almanac for Saturday. It's the 12th of March, 2022.
It's the birthday of Jack Kerouac, born Lowell, Massachusetts, 1922, French-speaking Quebecois parents. He was a football star, went to Columbia on a football scholarship, and there he met Allen Ginsberg, William S. Burroughs, and Neal Cassady. Jack Kerouac idolized Neal Cassady, and he typed up the story of their cross-country adventures on a single scroll of paper 120 feet long, published in 1957 as On the Road. He depicts Neal Cassady, whom he calls Dean Moriarty, as a charismatic, bad boy American hero. It's the birthday of the playwright Edward Albee, born Washington, D.C., 1928, adopted at the age of 2 weeks by Mr. and Mrs. Reed Albee of Larchmont, New York, of the Albee theater-owning family. They expected their son to go into business. He wanted to be a writer. He had a falling out with them when he was 20, moved to Greenwich Village, never spoke to his father again, didn't speak to his mother for 17 years. Wrote his first play, The Zoo Story, when he was 30, and 4 years later, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? It was his first Broadway play, produced in 1962 and a runaway hit. It's the birthday of the poet and author Naomi Shihab Nye, born in St. Louis, 1952. Father Palestinian, her mother American. Nye grew up in St. Louis, Ramallah, Jerusalem, and San Antonio, where she lives today. Naomi Shihab Nye, who said, "Poetry calls us to pause. There is so much we overlook while the abundance around us continues to shimmer on its own." It's the birthday of Carl Hiaasen, born Plantation, Florida, 1953, columnist for the Miami Herald, novelist, and his young adult novel, Hoot, won the Newbery Award in 2002. It's the birthday of Dave Eggers, Boston, 1970, grew up in Lake Forest, Illinois. When he was a student at the University of Illinois, both of his parents died of cancer within 6 months, and he was on his own at the age of 21. He later said, "On the one hand, you were so completely bewildered that something so surreal and incomprehensible could happen. At the same time, suddenly the limitations or hesitations that you might have imposed on yourself fall away. There's a weird, optimistic recklessness that could easily be construed as nihilism, but is really the opposite. You see that there is a beginning and an end, and that you have only a certain amount of time to act, and you want to get started." He wrote a best-selling book about it, a heartbreaking work of staggering genius.
Here's a poem for today by James Silas Rogers, Bumblebee in the Basement. When I went for a crowbar downstairs, a bee, big as a wine cork, was batting the floorboards and joists, having come through the cracks in the limestone foundation to nest in our musty basement. I emptied a jar of nails, cupped it over her buzzing form, a snow globe whirring with frustration. Outside, I turned the jar over. Captivity cast aside, the bee rose like a spark flying upward. She lifted toward the sky like a balloon released from a child's grasp, then halted on an apple blossom. I stood and watched, forgetting why I needed that crowbar. A poem by James Silas Rogers, Bumblebee in the Basement, from The Collector of Shadows, published by Bright Horse Books and used by permission here on the Writer's Almanac. Be well, do good work, and keep in touch.